There are moments in life where everything seems to be flipped upside down, and that's not by accident. God doesn't allow disruption without purpose. Sometimes the shakeup is the only way to get your attention. You have been sleeping on your potential, ignoring the signs, and playing it safe for far too long. God isn't trying to hurt you. He is trying to stir you. He knows that if he doesn't move the pieces, you will never leave where you have outgrown. You have been praying for God to elevate you, but you didn't expect it to feel like this. You thought elevation would come wrapped in comfort and ease, but sometimes elevation feels like eviction from comfort zones, from people, from routines. That job you lost, that relationship that fell apart, that opportunity that slipped through your fingers. What if that was God nudging you to wake up to something better? Change doesn't feel good, but it's good for you. That's the challenge. Understanding that God's goodness doesn't always come in the package you expect. When everything around you is shaking, it's not to destroy you. It's to alert you. He is shaking you to shift you. He is unsettling the situation to position you for something greater. You can't stay asleep to your purpose. You have been living below your potential, settling for average, just going through the motions. God didn't create you for that. He is waking you up because time is moving and your destiny is waiting. You can't afford to hit snooze anymore. There's work to do, and you are the one called to do it. Waking up means facing some hard truths. It means realizing that the way you have been doing things can't continue. It means confronting the parts of yourself that have become too comfortable with mediocrity. God's wake-up call doesn't come through whispers. It comes through the rumble of change, and you have got to listen. The more you resist change, he louder, God has to ring the alarm. That's why things seem to be getting more uncomfortable. That's why the people around you are changing. That's why opportunities are shifting. You are being shaken awake, not to scare you, but to prepare you. Wake-up calls aren't convenient. They interrupt your sleep. They demand attention. They require action. When God is calling you to rise, you can't roll over and pretend you didn't hear it. The alarm is sounding through the change in your life. You can't pray for growth and cling to comfort at the same time. Growth demands that you step out, take risks, and embrace uncertainty. Comfort wants you to stay the same, do the same, and be the same. But God didn't create you to remain stuck in a life that no longer fits who he is shaping you to become. Comfort will convince you that safe is better, that familiar is more important than fulfilling your purpose. But growth is going to stretch you, pull you, and force you to let go of old patterns. You can't grow and stay the same. You can't expand and remain small. Comfort will trap you in the past, but growth will lead you into your future. There is no growth without discomfort. You are going to feel uneasy. You will likely second guess yourself. You are going to wonder if you are doing the right thing. That's part of the process. Growth doesn't feel natural because it's not something you have done before. But just because it's unfamiliar doesn't mean it's wrong. It means you are growing. God allows discomfort because he knows that without it, you will stay where you are. You will keep settling for less. You will keep surrounding yourself with people who don't challenge you. Growth requires you to leave the crowd, to leave the habits, to leave the thinking that kept you stagnant. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Comfort wants you to be liked by everybody. Growth teaches you that not everyone is meant to go with you. Comfort keeps you dependent on other people's validation. Growth pushes you to find your value in who God says you are. That shift isn't always pretty, but it's powerful. When you start growing, comfort becomes a trap. It tells you that what you have is good enough, even when your spirit knows there's more. Don't let good enough rob you of greatness. God's vision for your life is bigger than what's comfortable. You have got to decide which one you want more, growth or comfort. The moment you choose growth, you choose a new path. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Every step you take outside of your comfort zone brings you closer to purpose, closer to impact, and closer to the life you were created to live. You have been crying over a closed door, but what if that closed door saved your life? What if that no was God's protection? What if that opportunity was a trap and God knew it? Sometimes what we see as rejection is divine redirection. God isn't being cruel. He is being strategic. That job you didn't get, that relationship that didn't work out, that dream that didn't unfold the way you planned, it hurt, but it didn't ruin you. It redirected you. Closed doors aren't the end. They are a sign that something else, something better is on the way. But you have got to be willing to walk away from what's over. God sees what you can't. He knows the motives of the people around you. He knows the future you can't predict. So when he closes, it's a door. It's not punishment. It's protection. You may not understand it now, but in time, you will look back and thank him for every door that didn't open. The longer you stand at a closed door, the more you delay your next opportunity. You keep knocking, begging, and hoping that what God has already shut will open again. But he is trying to move you forward, not keep you stuck. That door wasn't meant to stay open forever. Some doors close because you have outgrown them. What used to fit doesn't anymore. God closes doors when it's time to elevate you, but elevation requires separation. You have got to let go of what's behind that door so you can reach for what's ahead. A closed door is often the beginning of a new chapter. You may not see the whole story yet, but God is writing it. Trust that he knows the plot better than you do. Stop mourning what's gone and start expecting what's coming. That shift in mindset will change everything. Closed doors teach you to rely on God's direction, not your understanding. They build your faith, stretch your patience, and sharpen your discernment. God is at work even when doors close. You have been asking God for purpose, but you didn't expect preparation to feel like this. Change is God's way of preparing you for the next assignment. He is shifting things because he is about to assign you to a level you have never experienced. Preparation never feels good, but it's necessary. When God is preparing you, he will strip away everything that can't go with you. People you thought were permanent will leave. Opportunities you depended on will disappear. It's not to harm you, it's to shape you. You can't take old baggage into a new assignment. Preparation requires isolation. God pulls you away from distractions so he can pour into you. He is not punishing you. He is equipping you. In the quiet moments, in the stillness, that's where you will hear his instructions. That's where he molds your character and clarifies your purpose. Your next assignment is going to require strength, discipline, and faith that you haven't needed before. That's why this season feels heavy. God is developing what's inside you so you can handle what's ahead. If he gave you the assignment now without preparation, it would crush you. Preparation isn't about being perfect. It's about being ready. God is getting your heart right, your mind focused, your spirit sharpened. He is clearing the clutter so you can walk boldly into what he has called you to do. Every uncomfortable moment is part of the training. The people around you may not understand what God is doing. That's okay. They are not called to your assignment. Stop trying to explain your process to people who haven't heard your instructions. Stay focused on what God is saying to you, not what others are saying about you. Change is the classroom and your assignment is the test. God doesn't prepare you for nothing. He has something specific in mind, and every challenge you are facing is building you for it. You have been feeling uneasy, like something shifting inside you, but you can't quite put your finger on it. That discomfort is not random. It's a sign that God is promoting you spiritually. You are not agitated because you are failing. You are agitated because you are outgrowing where you are. Just like a plant outgrows a small pot, your spirit can no longer fit in the limited space it used to. God is making you restless because he knows if you stay comfortable, you will never reach the fullness of what he has for you. The reason you feel like you don't belong in certain conversations anymore, the reason that old environments are starting to irritate you is because God is shifting your identity. You are being upgraded. Your spirit knows it, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. Discomfort is heaven's way of notifying you that you are on the verge of a level up. It's not that you have lost your place. It's that you are being positioned for greater. But greater always comes with growing pains. You have got to stop mistaking discomfort for a sign to quit. It's not a signal to retreat. It's a signal to press forward. Every time you have been promoted in life, it didn't feel good in the process. Promotions don't come with convenience. They come with challenges that pull out gifts you didn't know you had. Discomfort stretches you. It forces you to tap into a deeper level of prayer, a deeper level of focus, a deeper level of faith. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Think about how an eagle teaches its young to fly. The mother eagle will start making the nest uncomfortable, removing the soft feathers and exposing the thorns underneath. That's not cruelty. That's preparation. The eaglet would never leave the nest if it stayed soft and cozy. God will do the same with you. He'll remove the comfort you have been depending on, not to hurt you, but to get you to spread your wings. You were never created to stay grounded. You were designed to soar. You can't expect spiritual promotion and expect things to stay easy. Every level has new requirements. God knows what you will need in the next season, so he allows you to feel the squeeze now. That discomfort is sharpening your discernment, teaching you patience and building endurance. You are being trained for a fight you haven't seen yet. You don't even realize how strong you are becoming because all you feel is the pressure, but the pressure is producing power within you. People around you might not understand why you are unsettled. They will tell you to relax, to be content, to stop overthinking, but they don't feel the pull you are feeling. They don't hear what God is whispering in your spirit. Don't let the opinions of those who are comfortable talk you out of your promotion. This discomfort is personal. It's tailored to your calling. It's the tension that comes before the breakthrough. The discomfort is pushing you out of old cycles. It's forcing you to confront fears you have been avoiding. It's stretching your faith to believe beyond what you can see. That feeling of being out of place, out of sync, and out of rhythm isn't because you are lost. It's because you are being aligned. God is shifting you into position for what he is about to release in your life. Uncertainty will test you like nothing else. When you can't see what's ahead, when plans fall apart, when the path is unclear, that's when faith is no longer optional. It becomes essential. God doesn't always give you the luxury of knowing how it will all unfold. Sometimes he will deliberately leave out the details because he is not testing your knowledge. He is testing your trust. You want to see the whole staircase, but God is asking you to take the first step into what feels like thin air. Faith isn't needed when everything makes sense. Faith kicks in when logic runs out. It's easy to believe when the numbers add up, when doors open on cue, when opportunities line up perfectly. But what happens when you are left with nothing but a promise? What happens when the resources are gone, when the timeline is off, when the plan you crafted falls apart? That's when faith shows up to do the heavy lifting, to carry you through the unknown. Seasons of uncertainty will strip away your illusions of control. You will realize that no matter how much you plan, prepare, and organize, there will always be variables beyond your reach. That's not meant to paralyze you. It's meant to free you. You are not the architect of your destiny. God is. Faith teaches you to relinquish the need to control every outcome and to trust that God's hand is steady even when your world feels shaky. It's in the uncertainty that you discover what you believe. Anyone can talk faith when life is smooth, but when the waters get rough, that's when your declarations are tested. Will you still believe God is working when the evidence is missing? Will you still move forward when you don't have all the answers? Faith isn't passive, it's active. It's making moves with incomplete information, knowing that God fills in the blanks. Uncertainty is where God matures your faith. It's where you learn to lean not on your understanding, but to acknowledge him in all your ways. You will find that the more uncertain the situation, the more intentional God becomes. He will guide you step by step, not because he is trying to frustrate you, but because he is teaching you dependence. You don't need a 5-year plan to walk in faith. You need a yes for today. People around you may not understand why you are still moving forward when things look unstable. They will question your decisions, doubt your direction, and wonder why you are so calm in the middle of chaos. What they don't see is the anchor of faith holding you steady beneath the surface. Faith doesn't remove uncertainty. It gives you the courage to navigate through it. You are not walking blindly. You are walking with divine guidance that others can't see. Seasons of uncertainty are not void of God's presence. Those are often the seasons where his presence becomes the most real. When everything else fades, when options run out, that's when you hear his voice. The uncertainty is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to develop a level of faith that will carry you into places where clarity alone could never take you. There are seasons when God will pull you away from everyone and everything familiar, not because he has forgotten you, but because he is trying to get your attention. You will look around and wonder why certain people have drifted, why calls aren't coming in like they used to, and why invitations have stopped. It's not rejection, it's divine isolation. God is silencing the noise because there are some things he wants to say to you that can't be heard in the crowd. Isolation feels uncomfortable because we are conditioned to crave constant connection. We want to be surrounded, validated, and in the loop. But there are certain instructions God reserves for private meetings. He is not ignoring you. He is pulling you aside. When distractions are stripped away, you start hearing things you couldn't hear before. The silence becomes the classroom where God teaches you the most profound lessons. When God isolates you, it's a sign that he is shifting your season. You have been too dependent on external voices, too influenced by opinions, too entangled in relationships that dilute your focus. Isolation removes the clutter so you can discern what's truly from him. It's not a punishment, it's preparation. He is trying to reveal strategies, visions, and assignments that require your undivided attention. You will find that in isolation, your sensitivity to God's voice increases. The whispers that got drowned out by the chaos of daily life now become loud and clear. In the silence, God starts to download ideas, heal wounds, and stir up new levels of faith. What feels like loneliness is an intimate season where God is working behind the scenes on you. Isolation is where God corrects and redirects. It's where he points out areas in your life that need to be refined before you step into your next level. You will begin to see habits, mindsets, and attitudes that can't go with you into your future. It's in that quiet space that God will challenge you to confront the parts of yourself that have been hidden in the busyness of life. People will misunderstand your isolation. They will think you are pulling away out of pride, bitterness, or confusion. But they don't realize that you are in a season of divine separation. You are not retreating. You are recharging. You are not lost. You are being located by God in a way that public exposure couldn't offer. Isolation isn't about others walking away from you. It's about God calling you closer to him. Isolation is often the birthplace of revelation. Many of the greatest moves of God in people's lives happen when they were alone, in the wilderness, in the desert, in the cave. It's in these secluded places where identity is clarified, vision is birthed, and purpose is ignited. You are not isolated to be idle. You are isolated to be instructed. Every new season God prepares for you demands that you travel light. You cannot carry old mindsets, toxic relationships, past hurts, and the weight of yesterday into the doors God is opening for you. There's a reason flights have weight limits. Too much baggage can keep a plane grounded. In the same way, spiritual elevation requires you to let go of everything that's weighing down your potential. God isn't asking you to lose people and habits to punish you. He is making room for your destiny to breathe. You are praying for a breakthrough, but God sees what's attached to you. He knows that if he opens that door while you are still holding on to bitterness, pride, or fear, you will sabotage the blessing. Old baggage contaminates new opportunities. You cannot walk into a new season carrying the offense of what someone did to you 5 years ago. You cannot receive fresh vision while dragging the failures of your past. God's plan is too big to be suffocated by the weight you refuse to release. Some relationships in your life were meant for a season, not a lifetime. The problem is that you are trying to force lifetime loyalty from people who were assigned to temporary chapters. God will start to show you who can't go with you, not because they are bad people, but because their purpose in your journey has expired. Carrying expired relationships into your next season will drain you. You will end up spending energy maintaining connections God has already disconnected. Old baggage isn't always external. It can be internal too. The limiting beliefs, the fear of failure, the need for constant approval. These are bags we carry silently, but they are just as heavy. You can't expect new blessings to flourish in a mind that's still rehearsing old narratives. God is trying to give you a new identity, but you are still identifying yourself by your past mistakes. That mindset is baggage, and and it has to be unpacked. Letting go of baggage requires intentionality. It doesn't happen by accident. You have to make a decision that you are no longer going to let the weight of what was rob you of what could be. It's going to hurt because some of that baggage has become part of your routine. It's familiar, but familiarity isn't the same as freedom. God is calling you to release it because he is ready to elevate you beyond it. The danger of carrying old baggage is that it blinds you to new opportunities. You will start seeing everything through the lens of what happened before. New relationships will be judged by old betrayals. New opportunities will be filtered through old failures. God is giving you fresh ground to walk on, but you will keep missing it if your hands are too full of yesterday's debris. You cannot embrace what's next with clenched fists, holding on to what's past. Traveling light is not a suggestion. It's a spiritual necessity. The higher God takes you, the less weight you can afford to carry. Just like a hot air balloon can't rise until the sandbags are thrown off, your elevation is waiting on you to release the unnecessary load. God is ready to open the door, but the question is, are you willing to drop what can't go with you? Obstacles will never announce themselves as blessings. They come dressed in frustration, dressed in delay, dressed in difficulty. But if you look through the eyes of faith, you will see that every obstacle carries an opportunity inside it. You have been praying for God to grow you, to stretch you, to elevate you, but you didn't expect the opportunity to come through a problem. God often hides promotion in situations that look like setbacks because it's the struggle that produces the strength. The reason obstacles feel so overwhelming is that they are designed to reveal what's inside of you. You don't know how strong your faith is until it's tested. You don't know how creative you are until your back is against the wall. You don't know how much endurance you have until you are forced to keep moving when everything in you wants to quit. The obstacle isn't there to stop you. It's there to unlock you. It's designed to activate the potential that's been lying dormant. We often pray for God to open doors, but when obstacles show up, we assume something's wrong. But what if the obstacle is the door? What if the very thing you are trying to avoid is the doorway God designed to take you to your next level? God doesn't elevate you through ease. He elevates you through endurance. Every giant you face is an invitation for a greater victory. Every wall in your path is a platform for God to showcase his power through you. Obstacles are opportunities for you to prove to yourself who you are. You have been underestimating your capacity, shrinking your vision, and doubting your calling because things haven't been easy. But ease has never been the pathway to greatness. The obstacle forces you to dig deep, to pray harder, to focus sharper, and to believe beyond what you can see. What you thought was sent to break you is building the spiritual muscle you will need in your next season. The difference between people who rise and people who stay stuck isn't the presence of obstacles, it's their perspective of them. Two people can face the same mountain. One sees a wall, the other sees a challenge to conquer. God is shifting your perspective so you stop cursing what you should be confronting. The obstacle isn't an enemy, it's an opportunity wearing a disguise. It's a setup for you to prove to yourself and the world that greater is he that is in you. Obstacles introduce you to your next level of faith. You can read about faith, talk about faith, but until an obstacle shows up, you won't know how real your faith is. God uses obstacles as spiritual mirrors. They show you the areas where you need to trust him more, where you need to let go of fear, where you need to stand firm. Every obstacle carries a lesson that will equip you for the blessings you have been praying for. Sometimes God allows obstacles because he is protecting you from shortcuts that would leave you unprepared. You want it fast, but God wants you ready. The obstacle slows you down, but it also builds you up. It forces you to develop the character, discipline, and perseverance that are essential for sustaining success. You don't need an easier path. You need a stronger mindset. The obstacle is your training ground, not your tombstone. Change will push you into places where you are forced to tap into abilities you didn't know you had. Comfort zones never introduce you to your full self. You will never discover the depth of your potential while everything stays predictable. It's in the unfamiliar, in the unpredictable, where hidden gifts start to surface. Change forces you to dig into reserves of strength, creativity, and resilience that were lying dormant inside you, waiting for a challenge to activate them. When life shifts suddenly, when routines break and familiar doors close, you are forced to innovate. You are forced to problem solve. You are forced to become resourceful. That's not an accident. That's development. Change brings out a version of you that stability would have kept hidden. The crisis you are facing isn't there to destroy you. It's there to uncover dimensions of you that comfort concealed. The abilities you are about to discover were always there. They were just buried under layers of fear, doubt, and routine. Change peels back those layers. It introduces you to your potential by forcing you into situations where excuses no longer work. You don't realize how much faith you carry until circumstances push you to lean on it. You don't see your leadership until life demands you to rise. You don't know your endurance until adversity tests your limits. Every person who ever did something significant faced a moment where change thrust them into unfamiliar territory. They didn't feel ready. They didn't feel qualified. But it was in that moment of forced movement that they found out they were equipped all along. You are no different. The shifting in your life is heaven's way of awakening the sleeping giant within you. Change is a mirror. It shows you who you are beneath the surface. People around you may only see the surface level version of you, but God knows what He packed inside of you. That's why He is not allowing you to stay comfortable. He is orchestrating circumstances that will demand you to grow, to stretch, to evolve. You won't need to search for your potential. It will reveal itself in the fire of change. Pressure introduces you to power. You keep asking why things are shifting, but the truth is you have outgrown the level you have been living on. Change is the transportation system that moves you from old dimensions to new ones. Your next level isn't aiding on external opportunities. It's waiting on the internal version of you that change will uncover. You won't find your full potential in theory. You will find it in motion. Pain is not permanent, but the lessons it teaches will last a lifetime. The problem is we often focus so much on the discomfort of the moment that we lose sight of the development that's happening within us. Growth is always accompanied by pain because you are being stretched beyond your current capacity. You cannot expand without tension. God uses temporary pain as a tool to prepare you for permanent elevation. The pain is not the enemy. It's the evidence that you are evolving. You have been praying for God to enlarge your territory, but you didn't expect the process to feel like breaking. It's not destruction, it's construction. God is tearing down old mindsets, unhealthy patterns, and weak foundations so He can rebuild you stronger. The breaking is making space for the blessing. You have outgrown the small box you have been living in, and the only way to break out is to endure the pressure of change. Temporary pain refines your character. It exposes weaknesses that were hiding in comfort. When everything's going well, you don't notice the cracks in your foundation. But when pain comes, it reveals what needs to be fixed. God isn't showing you your flaws to shame you. He is exposing them so you can strengthen them. Pain doesn't come to embarrass you. It comes to empower you by highlighting areas that need divine attention. There's a level of growth you can only reach through adversity. Some qualities like patience, resilience, and true faith are not developed through ease. They are forged in difficulty. Pain trains you to endure, to persevere, and to trust God when everything in you wants to quit. You can read about perseverance, but you won't learn it until life places you in a season where quitting seems like the easier option. The discomfort you are feeling is temporary, but the strength you are gaining will carry you for the rest of your life. Every challenge is depositing wisdom into you. Every hardship adds spiritual weight to your character. You will find that after the storm passes, you will be standing on ground that's more solid than before. The pain will fade, but the growth will remain. Pain also has a way of sharpening your focus. When life is easy, distractions multiply. But when you are in a season of struggle, your vision gets clearer. You start to prioritize what matters. You stop wasting energy on things that don't align with your purpose. Pain simplifies life in a way that prosperity often complicates. It strips away the unnecessary and forces you to align with what's essential. Many people pray for blessings but run from the process that produces them. Blessings aren't birthed in comfort, they are birthed in labor. The temporary pain you are experiencing is not a sign that God has abandoned you. It's a sign that you are in the middle of transformation. Growth is messy. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. The pain you are feeling now is producing a version of you that will stand stronger, love deeper, and walk bolder into the calling God has placed on your life. One of the hardest realities to accept is that God's timing rarely matches up with your comfort. You want answers quickly, you want things to fall into place smoothly, but God operates on his clock. His timing is perfect, but it doesn't always feel comfortable. You might be ready to move forward, but God is still preparing you, still positioning you, still working behind the scenes. Your discomfort isn't a mistake. It's part of the process. Waiting is never easy. When you want change, you want it now. But God's delays are not denials. They are divine appointments. Sometimes the wait feels like punishment, like God argued about you, but he is giving you what you need in order to succeed long term. The discomfort in the waiting room is shaping your patience, strengthening your faith, and teaching you trust that doesn't depend on timing. God's timing demands that you surrender your need for control. You want to schedule your life and know the outcomes, but God asked you to step into uncertainty and trust that he has the perfect plan. His timing may feel inconvenient, but it's intentional. He is not moving slower than you. He is moving smarter than you. You may feel anxious because you can't see the whole picture, but God sees every piece fitting together perfectly. Comfort seeks immediate gratification. God's timing teaches you to wait with purpose. Waiting isn't doing nothing. It's preparing, refining, and growing. Sometimes God is building your character in the waiting. You might not see it, but he is working on your integrity, your patience, and your trust. If he gave you everything at once, you'd miss the opportunity to develop the qualities necessary for your destiny. God's timing often feels like a test of endurance. It's easy to be faithful when blessings arrive on your schedule. The real challenge is to remain confident when doors stay closed and answers are delayed. That's when faith becomes a muscle. It needs resistance to grow stronger. Waiting in discomfort reveals whether you truly believe God's promises or are just hoping for good outcomes. People around you might grow impatient or question your wait. They will ask why you haven't moved on or why you are still holding on. But they don't see the divine orchestration happening behind the scenes. God's timing isn't based on human convenience. It's based on divine wisdom. You are not waiting for nothing. You are waiting for everything. The discomfort you feel is part of God's perfect plan unfolding. Understanding that God's timing is not aligned with your comfort changes the way you navigate life's challenges. You stop rushing, stop forcing, and start trusting. You learn that sometimes the wait is the gift because it teaches you the value of timing. God's clock is always on time, even when it feels late to you. Your faith will grow stronger the longer you lean into his perfect schedule. Your future is waiting for your mind to change. The way you have been thinking, the beliefs you have held on to, the stories you tell yourself, they all shape the life you are building. But if your mindset hasn't shifted, your future won't either. God is calling you to shed the old mental frameworks that limit you and embrace a new way of thinking that aligns with his vision for your life. Your breakthrough depends on it. You can't step into a new season while still trapped in old patterns of thought. Your mind is like the engine of a car. If the engine is outdated or broken, the car won't run smoothly no matter how good the road is. A new mindset fuels your journey forward. It opens your eyes to possibilities you didn't see before and rewires your beliefs about what's possible. God is ready to renew your mind, but you have to cooperate. Changing your mindset means being honest with yourself about the lies you have accepted. Maybe you have been telling yourself you are not good enough, not ready, or not worthy. Those lies are mental chains holding you back from your destiny. God wants to break those chains, but it starts with recognizing them. When you expose the lies, you can replace them with truth. The truth that you are equipped, you are chosen, and you are called for something great. The future belongs to those who can think beyond their current circumstances. Your mindset shapes your choices, your actions, and ultimately your destiny. If you keep thinking like someone stuck in lack, you will keep living in lack. But if you begin to think like someone destined for abundance, your decisions will reflect that belief. That's how God moves you from where you are to where he wants you to be. Your new mindset requires daily work. It's not a one-time switch. It's a process of renewing your thoughts, feeding your spirit with God's promises, and surrounding yourself with influences that uplift you. Old thoughts will try to creep back in, but your commitment to a new way of thinking will keep you on track. The battlefield for your future is in your mind. Win that battle and everything else will follow. Mindset also affects how you respond to change. If you approach shifts with fear and resistance, you will miss the opportunities hidden inside them. But if you adopt a mindset that sees changes, growth, challenges, training, and setbacks as setups, you will navigate seasons of transition with confidence. God is equipping you with the mental strength to handle whatever comes your way. You are not the same person you were a year ago, a month ago, or even yesterday. God is constantly shaping you for what's ahead, but your mindset has to catch up. The future demands a new way of thinking, one that's bold, resilient, and focused on God's promises. The only thing standing between you and your breakthrough is your willingness to renew your mind. The unknown is scary because it's unpredictable. It's the place where your plans don't make sense, where the map disappears, and where you can't see what's coming next. But here's the truth. The unknown is exactly where miracles happen. God often shows up most powerfully in places where you have no control, no answers, and no guarantees. When you step into the unknown, you step into God's playground. You have been craving certainty, but faith calls you to move forward without it. Miracles require space to move. If everything is already figured out, there's no room for God to stretch his hand. The unknown shakes you because it demands complete dependence on God. It forces you to stop relying on your understanding and to trust that he is already working behind the scenes for your good. The unknown strips away your safety nets. It removes the familiar faces, the comfortable routines, and the predictable outcomes. That can feel like a loss, but it's a divine reset. When God removes what you depend on, he is making room to give you something better. The unknown is the blank canvas where God paints new possibilities you never imagined. It's the fertile ground for a breakthrough. Miracles don't happen in the known and comfortable. They happen when you say yes to what you can't see yet, when you move forward with nothing but God's promise. The unknown demands risk, and risk is the currency of faith. You can't buy a miracle with certainty. You have to invest trust in the invisible. The moment you stop waiting for all the lights to turn green is when God accelerates your journey. People around you may panic when you embrace the unknown. They will call it reckless, irresponsible, or foolish, but they don't understand that the unknown is where God does his best work. They can't see what you see through the eyes of faith. Miracles happen when you step out of the crowd and into God. His timing, even if it means walking blindfolded for a season. The unknown stretches your faith muscles. It teaches you to pray with urgency and trust with expectation. It forces you to listen more closely to God's voice and less to the noise of fear. When you are in the unknown, every step forward is a declaration that you believe God's promises more than your doubts. That's where supernatural breakthroughs are born, right in the tension of not knowing. If you wait for clarity before you move, you will stay stuck. The unknown isn't a barrier, it's a gateway. It's where your faith is activated, your purpose is revealed, and your miracles are birthed. God is calling you to stop looking for guarantees and start looking for him. When you do, you will realize that the unknown is not something to fear. It's where your next miracle is waiting. God doesn't promote comfort, he promotes growth. If you want to be unstoppable, you have to be willing to sit in discomfort. That uncomfortable feeling in your spirit, that pressure in your circumstances, it's God's way of shaking you awake. He knows that if you stay comfortable, you will never reach the greatness that he has designed for you. Unstoppable people are uncomfortable people who refuse to quit. The truth is, comfort breeds complacency. When everything feels easy, you start settling for less than God's best. That cozy spot you are clinging to is a cage. God wants to break you out of that cage, even if it means causing some discomfort. He'll disrupt your routine, challenge your mindset, and stretch your limits. The discomfort isn't to punish you, it's to prepare you for a new level of influence and impact. Unstoppable people have a higher tolerance for discomfort. They don't avoid the hard conversations, the tough decisions, or the lonely seasons. They understand that discomfort is temporary, but the results are eternal. God uses discomfort like a forge uses fire, heating you, shaping you, and strengthening you. The pain of discomfort is the price of power. Sometimes God will make you uncomfortable by changing your environment, moving you out